So perhaps if you live anywhere near me here in coastal Virginia, you know that we are the challenged recipients of schizophrenic weather. It's liable to be one temperature one day with one set of conditions and a totally different temperature the next day with a different set of conditions because of where we live on the coast. And I found myself frustrated the other day, saying to myself, I wish the weather would just pick a season and stay there. And all of a sudden, I got to thinking about Ecclesiastes 3 that says, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. And then I kept on reading how it says a time for this and a time to do that, and a time for this and a time to do that. And then it all stopped for me when I got down to verse 4. My heart beat faster as I saw this verse that I want to share with you today that says, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And my friend, all of a sudden I begin to realize that sometimes people of faith feel this pressure to deny pain. That when we get in seasons where we actually want to weep or grieve or mourn, there's this switch that we try to flip. We call it faith, but sometimes it feels more like being in denial, where we simply shy away from any type of feeling that would speak to and to denote humanity. And we suggest that, we're just going to put God over it. And I'm not knocking anybody's faith, and certainly I seek to live a life of faith as a child of God. But I want to ask us today, are we in faith, or sometimes are we in denial? Have you set yourself up to negate the human reality that life does not always exist on a mountaintop and that things are not always going to be happy? And more importantly, have you built your faith up in a way to help you sustain life when it's time to weep and when it's time to mourn? So much death around us and so much bad news and so many things going on. Sometimes you can't help but find yourself wanting to cry. When you've built your whole life and put your life into certain things or people, and then you see things begin to crumble before your eyes, or people you love leave this earth, or situations that you cannot control, it will make you want to cry. And I'm telling you that your embracing or weeping or embracing your mourning does not in any way make you less of a child of God. It really puts you in what I call the rhythm of life. Have you ever been to the hospital? Have you ever seen someone in the hospital hooked up to the machine that shows their vitals, and you see the rhythm? Boom, 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 boom. Have you noticed that if the line is always straight, that's not good news? That means something is dying or is dead. That in fact, the rhythm of life is that it's up and then it's down and then it's up and then it's down. And in the same way, there is weeping, which is down, but then there's laughing, which is up, and then there's mourning, which is down, and then there is dancing, which is up. And in truth, the Bible gives us this. It says that even weeping endureth for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Do you see the rhythm? And what I'm asking you today is, are you living in the rhythm? Or are you denying the rhythm in preference of looking more spiritual? My son, being a child, sometimes doesn't want to do certain things like maybe brush his teeth in the morning or wash his face. How children wrestle sometimes with not wanting to really get up and get themselves together. And it's always interesting to me to see my son throw a huge fit over something that would only last for about 3 minutes. And he'll go through a 10-minute fit for something that if he just gave himself to it for the time he was supposed to do it, it would be over sooner than he thought. And that's what I want to tell you today, that there are some things that are better dealt with if we give ourselves to it for the moment and trust God in that moment and know that soon the moment will be over. We spend longer fighting the moment than we do in the moment. And that in fact, perhaps if we invited God into that moment, and I want to say this as I depart from you today, that God is not standing outside of our tears or outside of our weeping, waiting for us to get it together. I want to suggest that the God we serve is a present help in trouble, that God says, I will come into the moment and exist with you right where you are. So you don't have to wait for your day to get better for God to show up, that the Lord wants to be a part of the moments you deal with in life. So rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. Cry if you must, shed tears if you have to, grieve if it is important and necessary to do. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad. But whatever you do, don't lose your rhythm. And you know what the good news is? According to this text, that for everything there is a time and a time and a time and a time. The good news is that time does expire. And sooner or later, you will find yourself in a new season. This is your momentum. What are you going to do with it?